The task has been on your list for 11 days. Not because you forgot it. You are aware of it with a clarity that borders on persecution. You open your laptop and it is the first thing your mind produces. You close your laptop at night and it is the last. The tab is still open, the one you were going to start with, and it has been open so long that you've stopped seeing it as a resource and started seeing it as an indictment. There is a document somewhere with a title and a blinking cursor. Just the title. Just the cursor. And the hours you have spent adjacent to it, in the chair, at the desk, technically present, while your attention moved to everything else available without any intention of being moved there at all. You are not confused about what needs to happen. You know exactly what needs to happen. You also know that you have spent 11 days not doing it. And the conclusion you have drawn about yourself in the interval between those two facts is the same conclusion you have drawn before, in previous intervals, about previous tasks. That something in you is insufficient. That other people sit down and simply begin. That whatever the quality is that allows a person to just do the thing, you have less of it than you should. This conclusion is wrong. Not as reassurance. Not as the kind of thing someone says to make you feel better before telling you to try harder. It is wrong as a matter of mechanism. And understanding precisely why it is wrong is the only thing that actually changes anything, because every attempt to solve procrastination from inside the wrong conclusion produces more of the same result. More effort. More self-blame. More watching yourself not do the thing you are trying to force yourself to do. More evidence for the verdict you have already reached. Here is what is actually happening. Your brain is not failing. It is functioning. It is performing, with remarkable efficiency and consistency, the precise calculation it was built to perform, and arriving at the precise conclusion that calculation was designed to produce. The brain evaluates every potential action by running an automatic cost-benefit analysis, and it does this analysis using a very specific accounting system. Energy expenditure now is weighted heavily as a cost. Reward that arrives later, or that is uncertain, or that is abstract, is heavily discounted as a benefit. The brain was calibrated over an enormous span of evolutionary time in environments where the task that offered the most immediate return was, in almost every case, the correct task to prioritize. Abstract future benefit, the finished report, the completed project, the submitted application, did not exist as a category in the environments that shaped the brain's reward system. Survival did. Immediate return did. Certainty did. And when your brain encounters a task that requires sustained high effort for a reward that is delayed, uncertain, and abstract, it does not malfunction. It performs exactly the avoidance it was built to perform, under precisely the conditions designed to trigger it. You were not given a broken brain. You were given a brain optimized for a world that no longer describes your circumstances. And then you were placed inside a set of tasks that activate its avoidance system with extraordinary reliability, and told that if you cannot overcome that system through the force of your character is the problem. Procrastination is not a verdict on your discipline. It is a report on the design of your task environment. This is the distinction that changes everything, and almost nobody encounters it with the precision needed to actually shift the behavior. Because the dominant cultural narrative about procrastination, the one you have absorbed and turned against yourself across every interval between intention and action, is a character narrative. It tells you that the people who do the things you cannot bring yourself to do are built differently from you. That they possess some quantity of discipline or willpower that you have in insufficient supply. That the solution is more of whatever that quality is, more effort, more pushing, more overriding of the reluctance that keeps resurfacing. And this narrative is not only wrong. It is actively producing the cycle it claims to be addressing. Because willpower is a finite, depletable resource that diminishes with use. Every time you deploy it to sit at the desk adjacent to the task without beginning, every time you use it to open the document and stare at the cursor, you are spending the resource without advancing the task. Paying the cost without collecting the benefit. And when the willpower runs out, as it must, the task remains exactly where it was. Except now there is an additional layer of shame over it. And shame, it turns out, does not motivate. It calcifies. This is the hidden engine of the cycle that nobody names precisely enough. Every time you interpret procrastination as evidence of personal inadequacy, you are not adding pressure that drives action. You are adding emotional weight to an already difficult task. The brain, which has already decided this task is costly and unrewarding, now also has to carry the ambient dread of what it will mean about you if you engage with it and fall short. The shame makes the task heavier. The heavier the task, the more strongly the avoidance mechanism fires. The more strongly it fires, the more time passes without action. The more time passes, the more evidence accumulates for the original shame. The cycle is self-sealing. And the key that keeps it locked is the belief that the problem is you. Shame does not push you toward difficult things. It adds weight to them. And the heaviest tasks are the ones most reliably avoided. The moment the frame shifts, from character problem to design problem, is the moment the cycle can actually be interrupted. Because design problems have design solutions. And the specific design failure that produces most procrastination is not obscure or complicated. It is, once named, almost recognizable in its simplicity. The brain avoids tasks that are ambiguous, effortful, unrewarding, and isolated from immediate feedback. It moves toward tasks that are clear, low friction, immediately engaging, and that offer something registering as completion within a short enough interval to feel real. This is not philosophy. This is how the reward system actually evaluates potential actions. And when you look at the tasks you most reliably procrastinate on, you will find, in almost every case, that they score perfectly on the wrong side of every one of those variables. The task is large and undefined. The entry point is unclear. The effort required even to begin is high. The reward is abstract and months away. And the experience of doing it in the early stages, when nothing is yet coherent, produces no feedback signal that registers as progress. Your brain looks at this combination of features and does not hesitate. It routes around it with the automatic efficiency of a system that has been running this calculation for an extraordinarily long time. Understanding this changes the question entirely. The question is no longer, how do I force myself to do this? The question becomes, how do I redesign this so that my brain's calculation changes? Not through willpower. Not through motivation, which is itself a response to reward anticipation and therefore cannot be summoned in advance of a task that produces no reward signal. Through engineering. The single most powerful intervention is not the one that sounds most dramatic. It is the one that addresses the brain's first and most fundamental objection, ambiguity. The brain will not begin something it cannot see the shape of. The moment you redefine the task not as, work on the project, but as, write the first 2 paragraphs between 10 and 10:30, a different calculation runs. The cost is now bounded. The end point is visible. The brain can evaluate the effort required, find it manageable, and authorize the beginning. This is not motivation. This is architecture. The task was redesigned, and the brain's response changed as a direct consequence. The brain does not resist effort. It resists undefined effort. The moment the shape is visible, the resistance changes. The second variable is friction, the number and difficulty of the step standing between intention and action. Every additional step between you and the moment you are actually doing the thing is a point at which the avoidance calculation can intervene. The document that lives 3 folders deep, behind a login, in a program that takes time to load, is a fundamentally different neurological proposition than the document that opens when you sit down. The distinction feels trivial. The effect is not. Reducing friction is not laziness engineering. It is reward system engineering. Every step removed between the person and the task is a point at which the avoidance mechanism loses a potential foothold. This applies to physical environment, digital environment, the structure of the workspace, the arrangement of what is visible versus hidden. None of it is incidental. All of it is design. The third variable is immediate reward, the one most commonly dismissed as insufficiently serious for the weight of the problem. But the brain is not impressed by the seriousness of your problems. It responds to its own reward calculation. If the only reward available for completing a task is the abstract, delayed benefit of having it done, months away, uncertain, contingent on things outside your control, the brain will not find the calculation sufficiently attractive to reliably authorize action. Attaching a small, genuine, immediate reward to the completion of a defined work interval is not a trick or a consolation prize. It is a direct intervention on the neurological variable that was failing. You are not bribing yourself. You are correcting a design flaw in the task's reward structure that was there from the beginning. There is something beneath all of this that rarely gets named with sufficient honesty. Many of the tasks that accumulate the longest procrastination histories, the ones that have appeared on the list the most times, generated the most shame, felt most immovably blocked, are not simply poorly designed. They are emotionally loaded. They carry the weight of what it will mean about you if you do them, and they are not good enough. The report is not just a report. It is evidence of your capability, your worth, your right to be taken seriously in the context in which you exist. The creative project is not just a project. It is the test of whether the version of yourself you believe you are capable of being is actually real. And the brain, confronted with a task carrying this kind of existential freight, adds the fear of the verdict to the already difficult equation. The avoidance in these cases is not laziness. It is self-protection. And it makes complete psychological sense once you see it clearly. Understanding this does not dissolve the emotional loading. But it changes what the avoidance means. The tasks you have been most unable to start are frequently the tasks that matter most to you. The procrastination is not evidence of insufficient care. It is often evidence of precisely the opposite, of caring so much that the possibility of failure has become heavier than the possibility of completion. The person who cannot begin the creative work they have been thinking about for years is not someone who lacks ambition. They are often someone whose ambition is so closely bound to their sense of self that protecting it from the test of execution has felt, at a level below conscious decision-making, like the safer choice. Not a cowardly choice. A human one. A choice the brain makes automatically when the stakes attached to a task exceed what it has been given the structural support to manage. The things we most persistently avoid are often the things whose outcome we have tied most tightly to who we believe ourselves to be. This means that the tasks sitting heaviest on your list, the ones you have been circling for the longest time with the most elaborate avoidance patterns around them, are not evidence of your limitations. They are a map of what you care about most. And the path through them is not more willpower applied to the same poorly designed task. It is a redesign that separates the doing from the verdict. That makes the first step small enough to be genuinely unthreatening. That removes the requirement that what you produce be excellent before you have yet produced anything at all. The brain can begin something defined and low stakes. It cannot reliably begin something that requires you to be extraordinary from the first sentence, the first line of code, the first mark on the page. Perfectionism is not a high standard. It is a design flaw that sets the entry point so high that the brain's avoidance calculation wins before you sit down. You are not a person who cannot do things. You are a person who has been attempting to override a neurological system with willpower rather than working with it through design, and doing so while carrying the accumulated weight of every previous time the willpower ran out. That weight is the heaviest thing on your list. Not the task itself. The story you have been telling about what the task reveals about you. And the moment you set that story down, not as a permanent resolution but as a single, deliberate, experimental act, the task underneath it is often far lighter than the years of avoidance suggested it would be. What you have is not a discipline problem. What you have had is a design problem, and a verdict you absorbed before you had the mechanism to question it. That mechanism exists now. This channel exists for the moment it finally arrives. Subscribe, and this conversation continues.